Hello, today is October 9, 2020. My name is Eliza DeVries. I am an evolutionary astrologer, an intuitive, a medium, and I also spend a huge amount of time working as a healer and as an animal communicator. So we have in our home many adopted creatures always, and the journey is as exciting and as rewarding with them as it is with our fellow human beings. This past week has felt like a month for most of us. It is a time when we felt incredibly bombarded by the outer world and feel like too much is being asked of us. And how are we to manage that? How are we to get beyond that? Well, one of the things that we have definitely gotten out of touch with is our capability to bring our life back into balance. Our capability to stop the striving and the belief in striving as the only route to success, deeper understanding, and a forward movement in our lives. Today we have what is called a grand cross in the heavens. So we have the moon is in Cancer today, and it's squaring all this lovely Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, which in turn is squaring the sun in Libra and squaring Mars in Aries. Now, it is the Mars in Aries that has been pushing at all of us. It has been igniting an inner sense of furor, or looking at the anger and the red-faced expression of anger in the outer world right now, the sense of frustration that many are going through. Mars squaring Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter is bringing forth a transformation within us, but not in an easy, gentle, soothing way. It's like getting hit in the stomach with a punch. And the Mars being in Aries is a fire sign in a fire sign, and it's very symbolic too of the fires that we're contending with, the giga fires in Northern California, and the fires that we're hearing amongst candidates, and the extremism, the exaggeration, the sense of things out of control. This month is, we talked a bit in the last video about this month, but we've got a lot coming up now in the second half of the month. This is the challenging, explorative, huge shift in our perspective on life. We're going to be having to take regular cyclical rests, coming back, meditating, going for walks in nature. Please make sure that you look after yourself, because rather than the pace slowing, the pace is getting faster, the pace is getting stronger, and we already are feeling pretty wiped out, exhausted by all the bickering and fighting and tweets and etc. So we must create more balance in our lives. Now you may ask, why are we going through this? About a year ago, I started these videos. When I first spoke about the coming year, 2020, my main message was that we are making a shift from the focus on self, the focus on a narcissistic, patriarchal, pushing outward expression of life without incorporating the divine feminine. So the shift that we're making is, let me go back a bit. When we first inhabited Earth as beings. Edgar Cayce, who I think was just a genius in his understanding and his explanations of how we first came here, what were we like when we first came here. And he describes the source of being as a divine energy pool, a huge energy pool wishing to explode and express itself in an infinitude of ways. And one of the ways was as man, woman. And when man first came to the earth, to the paradise of earth, the soul was still in a state of remembering its divine origin, its divine oneness with all the rest of the beings. In other words, the energy pool was all one that then shot out, you can't even count how many sparks of its own being to express its own individuality through those sparks of being. So initially when we came here, we were learning, we were exploring, we were developing our own sense of individuality, but we were still in a state of incredible awareness of our divinity and our oneness and our divine spark and the understanding of being part of the whole of divinity. As time went by, mankind descended into matter and became more and more and more enamored with matter, with the earth, with all the deliciousness of the earth, to the exclusion of leaving behind its own awareness or bearing within itself its own awareness of divinity. Man became I, me, my, striving, grabbing, taking, fighting, patriarchal, pushing forward as conquerors, as not as stewards of the earth, but more as, in a way, the earth is there for my taking, and as time went by, literally raping the earth of her treasures and besmirching the earth with our ambition and greed and desire natures. So a certain amount of time went by, and the heavenly forces, this is my understanding of it, take it or leave it, the heavenly forces said, no, this has gone way too far. This has gone into the absolute expression of materialism, of narcissism, of egotism, of control, of lack of respect for the nurturing qualities of the divine feminine. It forgot that it became unbalanced. So if you think of the pendulum coming from the source, then coming into the center where it's realizing its individuality and its divine essence, and then swinging way, way, way over to all that mattered is its individuality, its sense of competitiveness, its sense of greed and wanton display of raping our earth and taking everything, taking all the treasures and just grabbing onto ourselves. So the planetary alignments really are, to my understanding of evolutionary astrology, a way of waking us up, forcibly waking us up energetically to a new way of thinking, a new way of incorporating the our unique sense of individual expression, but also coming back to a true empathy and understanding that you and I are one, that we come from one source, one divinity. So we've been pushed and prodded, and it's not ending yet. This is going to go on for close to the third week of December. It's not going to be as bad as October, but we are heading into some rough patches, and it's all being pushed by Mars in Aries, which is that male patriarchal, and I'm not running down the patriarchy of the divine aspect of male energy, but I'm talking about the expression in the world of the materialistic dominant aspect of male patriarchy. So we are being pushed and forced now to wake up. We're getting swatted beside the head. We're being told you have to come back into balance. So as I expressed a year ago, I still am of the same feeling. What has to come now is the understanding of understanding. The understanding of listening, the understanding of compassion, the understanding that, I wrote something down here, where did I put it? The understanding of coming back to our true essence and letting that shine through our being and developing a genuine empathy with each other, a caring for each other. So it's like God expressing through each of us the own individual divine expression in its own unique way, while at the same time acknowledging the oneness, the compassion, and the unity of all of us. So it's not a time to cast people out of your lives. It's not a time to become more tribal. It is not a time to become more divisive. But what we had to do, and it's often the case in life, it's like we're going along, we're not listening, so we get stricken with a disease, or we smash our car into a tree, or we lose someone from our life, or we recognize the preciousness of our life. It's like something comes along and bangs us up beside the head to wake us up. That's where we are right now. And that is the push of Mars against Pluto, which Pluto is saying, transform, melt down, take a look at what is melted down and pull out the gold. It's like the alchemist. Transmute from the dross aspects of your own self-expression into a refined being of divine compassion, while you're using your individual God-given gifts in this world. So we've got coming up next week, Mercury has been slowing down. And on the 13th, it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to be in Scorpio. So that is that's saying you're going to really have to look at your stuff. But because it's going to be opposing Uranus, which is the higher consciousness, the higher mind, the grander, more visionary and spiritual aspect of our mental perspectives, the deeper mind, really, the one that is tuned to God, the one that, when you get a flash of genius and you go, where the heck did that come from? That is the Uranian impression on us. That is the cracking through the barriers of crystallized, structured thought to a place of enlightenment. It's like, it's like the tower in Taurus hit by lightning. It looks like it's cracked open and crumbling, but the tower was going in just one direction and it was rigid. So the lightning came along and it said, no more rigidity, no more pushing the other aside, no more just looking out for number one. That used to be a famous phrase in America, but the phrase was subliminally adopted by a lot of Americans and a lot of people all over the world. looking out for number one, even if it's just your family you're looking out for and everybody else can go hang themselves. There was a sense of that climbing over each other to accomplish goals. So what we're being asked to do now is to listen. And through listening, I wrote something about it today on my Facebook page, that through listening and sitting with someone, whether it's a dog that's about to leave its form, or a person in hospice, or listening to somebody a mate that is just exploding with irate frustration, or it's a listening to one of our children that we may not have been listening enough to, or a listening to our environment. Listening gives us a sense of incredible capability to refine and hone our instincts about what's going on with the other person. I remember when people used to say, when Gigi and I were working with so many animals and so many rescued horses, you two are horse whisperers. And I said, no, that's a lovely phrase, but we are, because we don't like raising our voice to animals, but we are really horse listeners, dog listeners. And that's how we attune ourselves to the suffering of others and get the divine message of how to handle individual situations in each moment. Is through listening, through cooperating. How can I help you? The first phrase when somebody is suffering, how can I help you? What can I do to make your load easier? Now that just doesn't apply to those who are our nearest and dearest. It is a philosophy of life. How can I help you? And looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, how can I help you right now? Because you're having a hard day, you're suffering. And you listen, and you listen, and you're going to hear a message from within. Go lie down. Go and cuddle with your dog. Go and make love to your husband. Go for a walk in the nature. Go and rest. And this beautiful gift of the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus is that it's helping us to get innovative new ideas. We are not going to go back to the world we had before. So this one is about saying, what could you do that's new, innovative, and includes your individual gifts that you have developed over this lifetime? What could you do that would not only serve you and your progress, but would help with unity, help with compassion, help Mother Earth, in other words, a sense of coming together. And we can feel that. We can feel that shift in our political situation away from grabbing and fighting and the dinosaurs we showed in the cards rising up and giving its last bellow of fire and control over everything and everyone, its false sense of that. So we are learning through the Uranus opposite the Mercury retrograde, which is now pushing us back on ourselves. We need to reflect over the next week. As things escalate, we need to de-escalate. Come back into balance. Slow down and listen. And then as we move through the month, we're going to be moving for about 21, 22 days with the Mercury actually retrograde. Then it goes back into a stationary period, but it goes, on election day is the day of the end of Mercury retrograde. So that's kind of ironic. And we're going to do another election day reading and go into some other aspects of the election day chart and bringing forth the two charts of the opponents. So really and truly right now, what we're being asked by the youth, because the youth are looking at us and they're just going, what kind of world is this going to be that we're going to be left with? What kind of a life are we going to have? Where is it all heading? So we, as the elders, or even if you're in your 40s, 30s, we need to grow up beyond the wanting to the giving, the sharing, the understanding. I'm facing a situation right now where I've had my son and a friend staying here for a few months because both of them were not well. And I'm contending with the fact that the landlord only wants 2 people here on the lease. And my heart is breaking for them because I'm trying to find a solution. But at the same time, when we're in those situations where we don't see a solution, rather than running outwards and striving outward, just like when we lost our dog and then the other dog and then the puppy got sick, my first words to Andre were, God will gift us with a solution if we can just go back in and allow ourselves to receive it. So right now, it's a lot about receiving. As Mars processes us, we go, I don't need the outer fire right now. I want to receive a bathing of my inner light and my connection to divinity. I want to fill myself with light and I want to help others. God, take me as your vehicle and use me. And that's the prayer I say in the morning. These are your hands. This is your heart. This is your mind. This is your body. You illumine every cell in my body. I am one with you. Use me as a divine vehicle of healing. Because right now we are heading into, from the phase of a tremendous onslaught of divisiveness and hatred and anger within, which existed within many people. You can't just blame the president. He stoked the fire, but the coals were there to be stoked. So now we're heading into a period where we want to have a sense of putting out the fires. Mars keeps stoking it and stoking it and stoking it. But we want to now use the Mars energy as Aries is a catalyst. So we want to take our own life and be a catalyst in our own life for a better expression of who we are, of our true self. So I'm just going to draw a couple of soul cards because I love the soul cards. We will have at the end of the month a full moon, and it will be a very, very powerful full moon because we will have the sun in Scorpio on Halloween opposing the moon in Taurus, but that moon will be exactly sitting on top of Uranus, and that moon will be opposing the sun in Scorpio. So that's going to be a slam bam full moon, huge full moon. And it will be a time when we might feel cracked open emotionally, but we could access the deeper, finer, greater emotion that lies within our soul, the deeper expression of God coming through our love nature. Because nothing, if we turn to the love nature and if we turn to the inclusion rather than exclusion. This is the word for next year, inclusion. Inclusion back into the climate accord. Inclusion of understanding we are part of Mother Earth, that she supports us, we need to support her. Inclusion of the elders, of the elderly, finding better ways of looking after them, more safety. Inclusion of minorities, understanding that we have excluded many minorities and in a subtle way had our own form of putting ourselves on a pedestal above many other nationalities or religions or races. Inclusion of our education system to include a better opportunities for our children to become deeper, wiser, more expansive in their understanding of life, of our planet, and of what our future is going to be. Education is going to have to change enormously. And the children see it, and the children know it. And that came out in the last debate when the little 8-year-old girl was asking both of the vice presidential candidates, how can we get along with each other when all we see is everybody fighting? That is the exclusion, the fighting, the anger, the pushing people away, the understanding that not feeling that we have that sense of compassionate responsibility for each other. So let's just see what we get for the next 2 weeks as a soul card. Then I'm going to come back in a couple of days and do the next debate, which will not be this coming week, but the week after. So the card I got is a really beautiful card. It's a card of a person who is tuning in to their own inner being. The eyes are closed, the face is peaceful, and it's holding the inner soul. And that's what it's listening to. This soul is listening. So if there's one word you take away from this reading, it's listening. We can't help each other without listening. And how will it be for humanity over the next? This was the advice of Spirit. This card is what we're going to be challenged by. That does not surprise me. Okay, if you look at this card, what's coming out of the mouth? What is surrounding the head? Fire, anger, hideous words, striking out at others. The face is intense. The face has got a red, irate brain. So we're going to hear a lot of nastiness, a lot of shooting fire. So the answer, how to get beyond that, listen. Because right now, things are moving so fast and so explosively that we are literally in the moment shifting our own decisions. I don't know if you've noticed that, but the decision you might have made yesterday about a course of action, you may have modified today. We are on such an accelerated path right now. So I send all of you my love, my understanding. If you would like a reading about how all of this is affecting your individual chart, or if you have anybody that you would like to connect with on the other side, please write me at angelicmercy44@gmail.com. If you would like to know more about my history, about my teaching and my practices, go to my website, angelicmercy.com. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Look out for each other. and hear the hearts. Let us hear the hearts of each other. Thank you. God be with you. And may we all show mercy toward ourselves, toward Mother Earth, toward the creatures, and toward each other.